Was that on YouTube? That wasn't on YouTube. Is it actually playing, or are we just silently sitting here? Good job. All
Welcome
right.
into the Nerded Up Podcast.
That's just a real life problem I have. Transdimensional forehead syndrome.
Oh, sweet. Hey, you want to know technical difficulties? How about user error difficulties? I forgot to turn my mic on.
Oh, no mic. Oh, that's a good one. That's always a good
So
one.
I'm sitting here talking and nobody can hear my voice. People probably prefer that. Welcome into Nerded Up, the show that never has any problems whatsoever. Tell us right now, Stefen, read the comments. Let us know right now if you would rather a show where my mic's turned off the entire time and you just get to hear Stefen speak. Would you prefer that? So
I wouldn't prefer
hit
that.
us
That's
up
a
in the
lot of
comments. We're broadcasting on Phantom, Facebook's only live sports network, as per the U's. They do all the sports stuff, we do all the nerd stuff, and they're so kind as to let us talk about our nerdy things on here. But for real, though, it's cooler than sports. Like, I do sports stuff, and nerd stuff is cooler. Sorry, Infinity War, better than the NBA playoffs right now. Sorry. Not sorry. We got a lot of stuff to... Actually, we have one thing to get to, but we have a lot to get to in this. This is a very spoilery Avengers Infinity War episode. If you have not seen Avengers Infinity War, do not watch this, unless you just don't give a shit about spoilers. We were playing a game earlier with a guy who was in a party, in an Xbox Live party. We were playing Smite, and he was in an Xbox Live party with us. It's one of your friends. And we're just sitting there talking about Avengers Infinity War. He said something. He's like, I can't believe, spoiler, I can't believe all those people died. And we're like, okay, this is a safe space. We could talk about it. It's fine. And then we're just talking about there, yeah, he died, she died, this happened, that happened. And then all of a sudden, Stefen's like, have you seen the movie, Nico? And he's like, no, not yet. I just know all the spoilers. And we were like, shit, man. But apparently he doesn't care about Marvel because he's a weirdo. Anyway, so well, I don't know what that's all about. Weirdo. So really, we're going to talk about like everything that has to do with this movie. So be in the comments. Be crazy in the comments tonight. Talk about this movie, everything you thought about this movie, everything you felt after you saw this movie. I've seen the movie multiple times, and it's every second that I've watched it has just been absolutely phenomenal. And you know what? The first time I saw it, I was in so much shock with a lot of shit that happened, and it was so overwhelming. It's my brain and my emotions didn't have time to process everything. But then, like the second time I went to go see it with my wife and kids, I knew what was coming, and so like I got real emotional in weird parts where I'm just like, and I'm like, I didn't cry because like I'm a man and men don't cry, right? You cisgendered bastard. But anyway, you binary piece of shit. But I choked up a little bit. I got pretty emotional over it. By the way, this is my Infinity Gauntlet cup. It's pretty amazing. And the multiple viewings. This is a movie that I'm gonna watch over and over and over again. Like more so than any of the other Marvel movies, especially once the sequel actually finally comes out. I'm gonna watch them back to back multiple times. But anyway, the movie was great. all the reviews that we read last week that were terrible, that gave the movie a bad rating, all those people can piss off. I want to find each one of them individually and play a little game of Rochambeau. I go first every time. I want to do it Jay and Silent Bob style, where they like literally go find the addresses of everybody and just go tell them off. But this is a great movie, and now that I've talked for the first 30 minutes of the show, Stefen, go. I want your thoughts on this movie. I want your thoughts as you were watching it, when you first got out, and now that you've had a chance to sit back, think about it, and let it breathe a little bit.
I think this movie was exactly what we needed in the Marvel Universe, and the exact setup that we need to finish this decade of Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, we're not finished because we do have Infinity War Part 2 name pending because we don't really know what it's going to be called. But this is a great lead up. I think they hit all the right beats, and they surprised people who did not know what was coming. I think that's the biggest reaction that I'm hearing is a lot of people, the movie ends and they're just kind of like in stunned shock.
Yeah.
Of just not knowing how to feel.
I've never seen a sold out theater as quiet as mine was after the first. I mean, after both viewings, but especially after the first one, because all the people that go see it at 11:40 on a Friday that are going to buy tickets to that viewing, they're diehards. They're the fans that they're a little bit more adult. They can't really like go out that late to see a movie, but they still have to see it as quick as possible. Everybody in that theater was just in absolute awe and shock afterwards. It was crazy.
Yeah, there was no real cheering, and spoilers, there's no reason to cheer. No. It is a very dramatic moment. And we're just gonna, again, we've already dispatched, disworded, whatever, I don't care words. Saying that we're gonna do spoilers.
Spoilers, yeah, spoilers.
Let's start at the very end and kind of work our way around the movie as we feel fit.
Yeah, I like that.
The very end is spoiler, half the universe dies. This includes half the heroes that we know.
Let's look. I'm gonna go on the list where there's the picture that I've got up right now on the show. Let's run through it and see how many of these people are dead. So Bucky's gone.
He's dead. No more Winter Soldier.
Gamora's dead. Star-Lord is dead. Black Panther is dead. Doctor Strange and Spider-Man are dead. Groot, Drax, and Mantis are all dead. Vision and Scarlet Witch are dead. So more than half of the people in this picture alone are all dead.
Yes.
That's absolutely. And then you tack on Nick Fury and like a few other people. Who knows who else is dead? Pepper might be gone. Hawkeye,
Maria Hill's gone. Hawkeye's gonna be around. I guarantee you, Hawkeye's gonna be around.
Hawkeye, one of Hawkeye's kids and his wife died, and he's gonna be pissed.
I'm gonna go with his whole family's dead.
That's what brings him back.
That's what brings him back. Avengers 2, he kind of like quit because he's got his family issues that he's dealing with. And that's what's going to bring him back with Avengers is like no more family. He can be as reckless as he possibly wants to be. Also, you kind of just like shifted me around. What is this over here?
Yeah, I shifted you. Don't worry. I'm going to fix it. I was fixing your camera. I had you cut off a little bit. We got to show your beard, man. Your beard is like half of your authenticity. Like people don't trust you unless your beard is shown.
This is my nerd cred right here. It grows on my face.
If people knew you, they would know that like just you in general, it's all nerd cred. But like the beard gives the visual of it. Like people see me and they're like, "Who's this suburban dad who thinks he knows nerd stuff?" But they see you and they're like, "This dude knows his shit."
I base my look solely on Comic Book Guy from The Simpsons. It's a casual thing I do.
So out of these deaths, obviously, the deaths that happened because of the snap was the majority of them. The two ones that mattered. Oh, Loki's dead too. We didn't name him, but the two that mattered outside of the finger snap were Loki and Gamora. Loki, I mean, it was, to me, it was kind of a big death. I know a lot of people don't care about Loki dying. There's a few people I talked to that they just didn't really give a crap. I think, especially after Thor Ragnarok, I care now. I care that Loki died. Do you think he's actually dead, or do you think it was a trick?
It's hard to say. I think he's actually dead.
Yeah, I do too.
There's the off chance that he isn't, but Loki dies within like the first 10-15 minutes of the movie.
Right.
My initial reaction was all the diehard Loki fandom out there, which I mean, I'm stereotyping here and that's terrible, but I'm going to go with 99% female. Just kind of cried out like suddenly. It was like Alderaan blowing up to them. Like you could just feel that disturbance in the force. It was a great way to open up a movie. I wish we saw a little bit more of that death and destruction at the hands of the Black Order and Thanos there, but we kind of get thrown in with everything's already gone to shit. It basically we see the end of Thor Ragnarok,
right, with
Thanos' ship looming over the refugees of Asgard. And we just open up with this movie saying, well, they're all fucked. Everyone's dead. It's just, Thor, Hulk, and Loki left alive fighting it out. Which is sad, because I want to know what happened to, like, Korg and, like, Meeks and stuff
Valkyrie.
like that. Yeah, and Valkyrie.
Valkyrie's just done?
I
they're all
think
just
you
dead?
see her corpse there.
Oh,
if
really? I didn't notice that.
I think there was, like, a little pan over of her corpse. But I mean, it is Thanos, it is the Black Order, so it makes sense. But there was a couple things that I like that the movie just kind of throws you into it. But I did want to see, last week I mentioned the destruction of Xandar and the Nova Corps. And that's just mentioned briefly.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see the beginning of this action. I feel like this was filmed, but we just didn't get it.
Yeah, words. Absolutely. Like when we get the DVD, when we get the Blu-ray special edition, there's moments in there where you get some of those characters, and I want to know more about what happened before, or like at least a little bit more before the beginning of the movie. But there's a part of me that really likes them just kind of throwing you into the shit, right? Like, there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, everything, the mayhem is already happening, and it sets the tone for the rest of the movie, because there's almost no break in this movie. Like, they didn't give you a single break. The first time you think, oh, everything's going to kind of slow down, and Doctor Strange is meeting Iron Man, and we got a chance to breathe. Nope, they're immediately thrown back into the crap. And that was, like, all throughout the movie. So there's a part of me that likes the way they started the movie, but I would like to see a lot of the other stuff, too. How did you feel about Gamora dying? Do you care? I kind of don't care.
I mean, I care. I think it was a great idea to do it that way, because we get to see something that I don't know if we've ever seen on film ever, and that's an angry Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Like you look back to all the movies he's done, or even TV shows, have we seen an angry Chris Pratt in anything?
Maybe for a split second in one of the Guardians movies, but it's so
in
quick
Guardians
I can't even think
right?
of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Like right after he was told that, Ego murdered his mom.
Right.
More spoilers. Spoilers for every movie. Probably spoilers for Titanic.
That's not a spoiler. Like, if you haven't seen Guardians 2, I'm not saying spoilers. That's your fault, and you deserve to know what happened in that movie.
Sure.
But yeah, so that's one thing I was talking about with my wife, is like, Chris Pratt might be one of the most well-rounded actors, and she was talking about, man, he's everywhere. I'm like, he has been everywhere since the first Guardians movie. He did Guardians, he did Jurassic World, he did some movie with Jennifer Lawrence where they get trapped in space.
Passengers, that was a fantastically terrible movie.
Yeah. So he is all over the place. Like, since he finished, he did Parks and Rec, and then he went and did some military movie, and he's been all over the place. And I'm like, because he's one of the most well-rounded actors out there right now. You would be hard pressed to find many people that can pull off the kind of comedic timing and comedic acting that he can, and like on the fly improv stuff that he can do, and also pull off the sad pissed off dramatic acting the way he did. I thought it was phenomenal. And I mean, how many people can do that? Tom Hanks is one of them. I say Jim Carrey. A lot of people don't like his dramatic stuff. I think Jim Carrey is a phenomenal dramatic actor. But there are very, very few guys who can pull off that kind of range in acting, and he's absolutely one of them. I thought every scene with him, every scene with Star-Lord was amazing. Whether it was hilarious or whether it was heavy, it was amazing. The first time Star-Lord and Thor have interactions together might have been, for me, the funniest part of the movie, when he starts imitating Thor.
And I think that's like one of the strong suits of this movie,
right?
Is the way that they handled the story is they kind of compartmentalized everything. And instead, a lot of people were complaining about this movie being overwhelming and too much. I found it wasn't that bad. Like the way that they had just these separate groups do off and play off of each other. We had a bunch of basically B plots overall. Thanos and him acquiring the Infinity Stones as your overarching A plot, and then everyone else, the heroes just played second fiddle to Thanos.
Right.
And I think it was handled well. And we got to see these really fun interactions of Thor and Star-Lord going off of each other. Thor being the manly man and Star-Lord being intimidated by his macho, manly, perfect hairness. Then we got other combos that I really loved that I wasn't expecting. The Groot Rocket Thor combo.
Yes.
That was a lot
awesome.
of fun.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange Spider-Man, like that.
Yeah, the fact that he kept calling Rocket Rabbit was it made me laugh every single time.
Yes, Rabbit and Tree. It's just I wish he could do that. Yeah, I kind of wish he had a Russian accent, so it'd just be like Moose and Squirtle.
Yeah. That's a great point. Because I kind of blew past it because I don't pay attention to people, and I'm narcissistic and a sociopath, and I don't listen. But Doctor Strange and Spider-Man was it was a great combo. The team. So what I said last week is I want to see some awesome team fights where you got multiple powers working in conjunction with one another, and we got that all throughout this movie. And one of the best parts is when they're fighting Thanos, and Doctor Strange is just sending Spider-Man through portals. He's like, magic again, magic with a kick. That was awesome. I you know what? I think my two favorite actors in this movie, the actors with the most range in this movie, it's Chris Pratt and it's Tom Holland. I think Tom Holland is such an incredible actor. We talk about range. I'll add him to that. Range when it comes to comedic acting, comedic timing, and then just gut-wrenching drama. In Spider-Man Homecoming, when he's being crushed by the rubble of the building after fighting Vulture, and he's screaming and crying, he's trying to push himself out from under it. I thought it was phenomenal. And then when he's dying in spoilers, when he's dying in Tony Stark's arms at the end of that movie, where he's just I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I'm not ready. And then he apologized. I'm sitting there going, fuck, Spidey, no, I don't want you to go either.
That was probably the most heart-wrenching death right there. And because, they've developed this father-son relationship with Spider-Man and Tony Stark, and they kind of set it up as this proxy for Uncle Ben. And you have the reverse of Uncle Ben dying in Spider-Man's arms. You have Spider-Man dying in Uncle Ben's arms, essentially. And it was that's my vote for the most dramatic death in the Marvel universe and in this movie. It was just rough.
Yes.
The Gamora one, Thanos throws Gamora off a cliff, and Thanos sheds a tear. Blah blah blah. And we'll get to Thanos in a second as this villain.
Yes.
But
as
Spider-Man's
the most compelling
death,
villain in any movie I've ever seen, almost.
Thanos' death. We're not there yet. Spider-Man's death was just so much.
Dude, it was. So, this is something that I still haven't watched the Red Letter Media review yet, but this is something that we talked about briefly the other night through Messenger. And what I was talking to my friend Ryan Rocket about the other day, whenever I was up at the station before I did my show on Sports Radio 610 in Houston. I'm on Saturdays. Boom, plug, baby. I don't know exactly the time. They just kind of throw me all around. But Saturdays or Sundays, One of those days, maybe sometimes other days. I don't know. Sports Radio 610, I'm on there. Anyway, so before the show, I was talking to him, and like this is exactly the kind of subverting the narrative that works. When you look at what one of the reasons Star Wars: The Last Jedi got panned or lauded was because they subverted the narrative. The people that lauded it are the people that were like, well, at least they tried to subvert the narrative. And the people that hated it, like us, are the people that are like, you can't subvert the narrative by just completely doing it outside the laws of the universe, outside the laws of the story that's already been created. And this is the exact opposite of what The Last Jedi tried to do. This is the antithesis of The Last Jedi, where they took a Marvel movie and they made it somber, they made it sad, they subverted all of the narrative, all of your expectations, and what you thought this movie was going to be, how you thought this movie was going to end, and they did it within the bounds of the storyline. They did it within the bounds of this Marvel universe, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. It was heavy, and it was real. Like, I've never watched a Marvel movie and felt real feelings, right? We always have fun, and we go in, and we're like, yeah, that was awesome, man. That was a cool scene. And you love it because it's superheroes. You're like, yeah, smash them. Yeah, Hulk smash. That's right. Puny God, you're right. But this is the first time I've gone in and been like, oh my God, they could legitimately lose this. And then at the end, you find out, holy shit, they actually lost. Now, obviously, there's going to be redemption. Obviously, in the next movie, something's going to happen to bring these people back. We'll talk about that Stefen will talk about that in just a minute. Stefen, at the end of this review, is going to give us the hope for the future. Stefen's the little thing that he's picking up right now, that's the hope for the future, okay? He's going to give that to us. But this is the first time I've watched a Marvel movie and come away feeling just emotionally drained. And it was an awesome feeling. And it was like, my mind was working. I'm like, I don't know how they can save any of this shit. But like, I felt emotionally drained, and I love that feeling. When I drive home by myself in my car for like 5 to 10 minutes, completely silent, going, man, like that's how you know a movie was great. And it was a Marvel movie that did that to me.
I just find it. My wife was one of the people that I thought I warned her. I thought I pre-gamed her and said that this was going to end, excuse me, terribly for everyone. And evidently I did not. And she was quite mad at me. And friends that we also saw the movie with were also very mad. But it's also one of those, like, you're mad, but you should be. That's the point, right? Like,
they want you to be mad.
They evoked emotions, and this is a comic book movie. This is your summer blockbuster feel good flick,
right?
Like,
not anymore.
It drove home a point, and that was to make you feel certain ways.
Right.
They said, here's these 10 years of characters that you've enjoyed and like laughed with and cheered for. They're all dead.
Yeah.
And I hope you're ready to sit with this for at least a year, not knowing what's going to happen to them. And I have to say, I feel bad for the kids, that like 8 to 14-year-old range who was born during all this, and they've grown up with these heroes. Mm-hmm. This is literally ruining childhoods, I'm sure.
My daughter was my daughter was just wrecked after we saw this. My son was like, he was pissed off because Black Panther and Spider-Man died. But my daughter was in shambles because, like, all of her favorite characters died. Spider-Man, okay, her number one favorite hero in the Marvel Universe is Doctor Strange. She loves Doctor Strange over everybody else.
That's an interesting one.
I know, especially for a 9-year-old little girl. You think she'd choose Black Widow, or she'd choose like a Captain America or Iron Man or something, like one of the obvious ones. But she loves Doctor Strange because she thinks it's cool that he's a wizard. Like, she loves his powers. Which I told her, I'm like, that means you're already on a much higher level of nerddom than I will ever be. Like, I can't imagine like what plateau, like what level of nerddom you'll be when you're my age. Like, you're gonna be way ahead of me. But this is the little girl that, like, we have to like guide her when we're walking through stores because she brings her books with her and she'll read her book while we're walking through the grocery store. So like she literally told me today, she said I would rather read my books than watch a movie or a TV show or play video games any day. And it's true. Sometimes she just reads constantly. So
Good on her.
She's much cooler than I am. She's way cooler than I was when I was a kid. She's way smarter too. She's already smarter than me now, but what was I talking about? I started waxing poetic about my daughter. Now I have no idea where I was at.
Let's we'll run it back.
Oh,
to
Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
she was wrecked. Yeah, so because you were talking about kids. So all of them dying, and then when Doctor Strange was just like Tony, it was the only way, and then he fades away. I looked over at her. She literally goes, no, like out loud in the theater, and she was just done for 20 minutes after we saw the movie. She was inconsolable.
Let's talk about that scene there for a second, because that was a really interesting scene.
Yes.
Earlier in the movie, we have Doctor Strange basically having a seizure as he goes through the future, and I think he says he sees something like 14 million different outcomes.
14,605 outcomes.
All right, so that number. And he says, Tony asks him, like, well, and which ones do we win? And Doctor Strange just gives us, the one.
Only one.
That 1 in 14 million chance. Mm-hmm. And I find it interesting because, later on in the movie, Doctor Strange gives up the Time Stone to protect Tony. And this leads to Thanos being able to get every gem on the Infinity Gauntlet. It's really interesting because Doctor Strange's final lines are, "This is the only way, Tony," kind of alluding to this is the one timeline that we can win in.
Right.
This is the only way that we will win, and that's giving Thanos everything he wants. Right. And leading to the death of half the known universe.
Right, and that's what I tried to explain to. That's why I tried to explain to a couple of people after seeing the movie both times. After the first movie, you can tell that's why he says that, because this was the only way they could win in the end. Everybody has to die for a bit for them to win in the end. And so obviously that's foretelling the future, where it's like, we're going to win this. And because the first thing he says before he says it was the only way, the first thing he says, we're in the end game now. And so he knows, okay, I'm dead. We're all dead for a while, and hopefully everything that happens after this, because if you're going through 14 million different outcomes, some of those had to be, okay, if we give up the Time Stone, then we still lose. Even if I give up the Time Stone, things don't work out the right way, and we still lose. So Doctor Strange had to do that, saying the only one way we can win is if we give up the Time Stone, and everything works out perfectly after I die. And that had to be tough for him. That had to be tough for that character.
And that's a running theme with Thanos in the comic books, is really the only way to ever beat Thanos is to kind of let him win.
Yeah.
Because Thanos kind of, I wouldn't say quite rests on his laurels, but he's always his own downfall in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And fans of the comics will get that. He does something where he lets his guard down, or he lets them win. There's a character that'll...
that happens with Marvel. Before Captain Marvel gets mixed with the genetics of Marvel, Thanos takes the cosmic cube and uses his wish to take over the universe, and then Marvel gets a hold of it, and they let him win and get the cosmic cube. Then Marvel undoes everything with the cosmic cube and destroys it. So that's even before the Infinity Gauntlet. It's already happened once before with Thanos.
Right. And what going back to this subverting thoughts here that this movie did and expectations, I find the ending, and I'm saying the dead ending of the movie, to be one of the most surprising things to me. It's Thanos at his little farm on this nice planet, sitting down and smiling. Now I have the omnibus, one of those German words behind me of Infinity Gauntlet, and that's actually how the real Infinity Gauntlet comic ends.
Really? With him sitting? That's cool.
But it's after he loses.
Oh.
He has exiled himself to his little farm plane, and Adam Warlock shows up with the Infinity Gauntlet and tells Thanos, "This is why you'll never win. because deep down inside, you don't feel like you deserve to win.
Right.
And you will never let yourself win. It's all your own fault. And I'm going to let you stew on this in your little hut, and leaves him alone. And that was like super surprising to me that that's the way that they didn't end it with anything other than Thanos in his farmhouse.
Right.
So I feel like we got the ending of Infinity War 2 right there. Thanos again sitting at his farmhouse, but now no longer a victor.
Right.
This is my call out. This is my my English literature training going. We're going to do full circle, ending the second movie just as we ended the first movie.
That'd be cool.
And that's how we're going to see Thanos's farmer life at the end. What are your predictions for the next movie? What do you feel like is going to happen?
Okay, so until we talked about this earlier, and so I'll just give my prediction, because I feel like Captain Marvel, and I think after talking to you and your prediction what's going to happen in the next movie, I think I'm more in line with you, but I think it's still on the table that Captain Marvel comes in, and one of the storylines, obviously it was with Marvel and not with Captain Marvel herself, but one of the storylines is the Cosmic Cube storyline, where the Cosmic Cube is used to undo everything that Thanos has done. And so I think it's a smaller percentage chance now, but it's on the table that Captain Marvel is the key to everything, the key to fixing everything. And she somehow gets her hands on the Cosmic Cube, and they use the Cosmic Cube to undo everything that Thanos did with his finger snap. That's what I think.
I think we're going to go just straight out callback to the original Infinity Gauntlet. And I just don't think we need another MacGuffin introduced.
Right.
And we don't want to... This movie does very little in the way of explaining things other than Thanos' backstory,
right,
which is great. That's exactly how it needed to be handled. And I just don't think we're going to introduce another MacGuffin in the Cosmic Cube and have to go into what the Cosmic Cube does. And we already have the tool to fix everything here, and that's the Infinity Gauntlet. The comics, that's a really tiny little picture of Thanos.
Yeah, I fixed it. I don't know why it's so tiny. It's so small. By the way, hold on real fast. So you hated the Infinity War picture that I used the last week. So I just pulled it up. Give it a second for it to come up on your screen. But how much do you hate this Infinity War poster versus last week's? Isn't this one just absolutely terrible?
I don't know if
it'll come up in a second. It's not the same one from last week.
I'll comment on it when I see it.
Real fast, a couple of Facebook comments. Michael Urbano says, "Hey, what was Nick Fury buzzing with the beeper at the end of the movie? That's Captain Marvel." So that logo that came up, that's Captain Marvel, and so from what I understand in the comics, I don't know much about it, but Nick Fury and Captain Marvel they've known each other for a really long time. And in the comics, she's the leader of S.W.O.R.D. He's the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D., and she's the leader of S.W.O.R.D. So I don't know how they're going to do it in the movies, but he pretty much called on Captain Marvel. We get the Captain Marvel movie. What is it?
It's before
Spring
Infinity
of next
War.
year. It's right. It's like a month or two before Infinity War, correct?
Right. We're gonna get the Ant-Man movie next in like the 3 months or so.
I think
I'm gonna
a couple of months. I think it's is it either end of May or end of June?
I think it's like the end of summer, somewhere around there.
Something like that.
And then we'll get Captain Marvel and like spring. You know, they're gonna dodge the Star Wars dates and stuff like that. Yeah. Captain Marvel, great character, Carol Danvers. We're gonna see her introduction here in the movie. She gets her powers. As far as the comics go, we don't know in the movie, but she gets her powers from a Kree warrior named Captain Marvel.
Marvel.
Which with a great name like that.
Captain Marvel is March 6, 2019. Ant-Man
Awesome.
and Wasp is July 5th of this summer. And then Venom's October 4th.
We won't talk about that.
Captain Marvel actually looks like it has a pretty damn good cast, too, because it's got Ben Mendelsohn, Jude Law, and Brie Larson. I'm excited about that.
And, Captain Marvel is one of these characters right now that in the current Marvel universe, she is doing a lot. She was leading up the Avengers recently in the Secret War or whatnot. She's going to be awesome. She's going to probably take up a mantle or two and kind of organize the team after this, everyone's death. That's going to be a big portion of this next movie.
Right.
Is everyone reeling from the fallout of Infinity War. And Tony was already on the edge.
Right.
He was always driven kind of mad by Thanos. That's what led to the creation of Ultron. I can't imagine what's going to happen here.
Yeah, he's going to be ruined. He's going to be absolutely torn apart and ruined.
And we already have hints at Thor becoming the unworthy Thor.
Yeah.
He's already kind of world weary and tired of all the fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if they do that whole unworthy Thor storyline, I would love. I know she doesn't want to do them anymore because she kind of got screwed over. But Natalie Portman as love interest McGee, I just forgot her name. Jane Foster. Jane Foster. Took me a second.
Love interest McDougal.
In the comics, she does take up Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, right, and becomes the god of thunder, Thor. And that would be great. I would love to see Natalie Portman in a main hero role and Thor kind of playing second fiddle a little bit. Mm-hmm. But that could be a much later thing, or it could be something that never happens.
Right. So speaking of characters taking a backseat, how do you feel about how they handled Bruce Banner and the Hulk? So like I initially I was like, okay, it seems like they're like they didn't want to have too much of the Hulk because the Hulk could just come in and ruin everything Thanos is trying to do because the Hulk is too powerful. So they had to introduce this rift between Hulk and Bruce Banner. But then after talking to one of my friends, he's like, I don't think that's what it was. I think they wanted to develop Bruce Banner's character more because we've always had the Hulk. We've always had the Hulk smashing everything in Avengers movies and other people's movies, but we've never really had a lot of Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner, because even when we had the standalone Hulk movie in this universe, it wasn't Mark Ruffalo. It was still Edward Norton. So, how do you feel about like getting more of Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner and his character developing a little bit more and getting him a little bit more screen time and this rift with the Hulk?
I think it was less about developing just Bruce Banner and developing the relationship between Banner and the Hulk themselves. Mm-hmm. In the comics, they are. Hulk is an entity onto his own and has his own intelligence and whatnot. And Banner sort of, learns more about the Hulk and they kind of feed off of each other. And I think it'll be really interesting if we get Smart Hulk. Hulk was a thing in the comics for a very long time. And it also limits, and sets up an end game. Hulk is an unstoppable force. He's one of the strongest things in the universe, all just fueled by rage. And when we don't have any of that in the movie, Hulk actually is coming off kind of afraid, to be honest. He's like, no,
he got
I don't
his ass kicked by Thanos.
Exactly.
Like, Thanos
Hulk is afraid.
Beat his ass, yeah. And he has every right to be. But that's because, so it feels like they're having this rift and they have to develop together because the Hulk hasn't really truly tapped into his powers yet, his full potential, because Bruce Banner hasn't learned how to control him. They haven't learned how to like coexist within the body.
And I think we're gonna, that's gonna be more character building, not just for Banner, but for both of them. We're gonna get Hulk in the next movie, and we're gonna get a very rage-fueled Hulk.
Yeah, which would be awesome.
Hulk has lost everyone that he knows. We're gonna get a slugfest between Hulk and Thanos.
Oh, that's gonna be so great.
My only qualm is that we had the Black Order in the movie, and we really don't talk about anyone's names outside of Ebony Maw, the spindly sorcerer guy. I'll dub him Creepy Fingers.
Creepy Fingers. Whoever, I don't know who did the voice for Ebony Maw. Whoever that was did a phenomenal job, because he was like creepy, but also kind of like I wanted to keep hearing him talk.
Tom Von Lawler.
Don't know who that is, but he was awesome. A couple of comments on Facebook. Andy says Edward Norton is boring, and he said how to create new storylines, kill off old heroes. They're all coming back, but yes, that's a good way to do it. And now he's pretending to be the Hulk. Hulk scared. Hulk sad friend's dead. Hulk wear gauntlet. Could you imagine the Incredible Hulk with the Infinity Gauntlet?
That happens in the comics.
Does it really?
Yes, and it creates a whole war universe where everyone is just war.
That sounds awesome. I want to see that universe. So I saw something where Kevin Feige said when we expect when in the Marvel universe with Captain Marvel. So even though the Hulk has unlimited power, he said that if you did a scale system of like a line scale system of who's the most powerful from bottom to the top, the most powerful will be here, and then Captain Marvel will be way above them. She's supposed to be by far the most powerful person in their Marvel Cinematic Universe. How do you feel about that?
I would say that's Kevin Feige building up the Captain Marvel movie.
Okay.
She's very strong, no doubt about it.
Right.
But being the strongest in the Marvel universe, maybe in the movies that they do it that way. But no, when you have characters like the Celestials, and we have a brief mention of the
That's
Celestials.
what he meant. He said specifically in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, specifically in the MCU, she's going to be the most powerful.
And I could see that. I mean, she's going to be one of the only characters granted powers by, the aliens, the
by a
Kree
Kree hero, yeah.
Right. So I could definitely see that being a thing. We'll definitely get more on that in the Captain Marvel movie. And it's going to be kind of, Adam Warlock in the comics is a very powerful character that kind of, he's the antithesis to Thanos.
Yeah.
He's, his nemesis. And he's always been like a core driving character in all the Infinity storylines.
Right.
And I'm really expecting him to show up. We have a hint of him at End of Guardians of the Galaxies 2. Excuse me.
Are you dying? Don't die.
Yeah.
Don't die on the show. Although the ratings would go through the roof if you did die.
Probably. It's a little viral. Literally viral coughing.
Oh, no.
Captain Marvel might be taking up the mantle of Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at that. It would be unfortunate. I would love to see Adam on the big screen. I think we'll see him eventually.
I hope we see him in the next movie. I absolutely hope we see him in the next movie. All right, so let's go back. We talked about the ratings last week. We talked about the ratings that everybody was giving this movie.
Talked about Houston.
Some of the reviewers.
Strong. There we go.
What did I have? What was it? Did it pull up?
It's pulling up an ad randomly.
What? Stop pulling up ads. So we'll go to Rotten Tomatoes first, and then we'll go to Metacritic. But so Rotten Tomatoes, the scores at an 84%. Is that fair or unfair?
I think that is the reviewers being overly critical.
Yes.
There was a lot of mention being the movie overstuffed. I think that's just, it's stuffed, but it's like a nice Thanksgiving dinner. Like you're going to come away full. There's a lot going on, but it's not hard to handle.
Yeah.
It's everything's compartmentalized.
You're falling apart tonight, man.
Yeah,
Usually I'm the one that falls apart.
got that dry mouth. They're just being overly critical. This is the biggest movie event probably ever. The box office shows that. And this is the classic someone's got to throw in their 2 cents of like, it's not as good as they say it is.
Yeah, which is terrible. I think it's definitely Black Panther has a 96 and this has an 84. Not saying that Black Panther doesn't deserve the 96. I just think that this is every bit as good as Black Panther was.
Black Panther is just a critical darling. Everyone loves that. It was very different as far as what we get in cinemas nowadays.
Right. So if you look at Black Panther, the tomato meter is 96, but the audience score is 79%. I think that's unfair. I'd give it.
I think that's unfair as well.
But before, I think I gave it like an 88 or an 89, something like that. I think it deserves to be around that 90%. But Avengers: Infinity War, like if the audience score is a 93%, I think if I out of 100, if 100%, I would give it a 91.
Yeah, and I would give it a 90.
Yeah.
There are no real moments to breathe, but the humor. There's a couple parts where the humor was a little out of place, they were attempting humor and it just kind of fell flat. But most of it was really good. You talk for a second. I got cough here.
Yeah, that's fine. So humor falling out of place. I think this is one that a lot of people would think was out of place and it fell flat. But I really loved almost all of the Drax moments, like a lot of the Drax humor lines and moments like that. Like when he was just like the one that I think would be people would consider out of place was when he's like, I figured out if I could stand incredibly still, I'm invisible to the eye. And I thought that scene was just, I was cracking up. Every time I've seen it, I think it's hilarious.
He stole so many scenes,
Yeah.
pretty much every scene that Drax was in, and it's great that it's Baptista, this wrestler,
Yeah.
stealing these scenes from these award-winning actors.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. The writing for him is just spot on, and the delivery is just perfect every time.
It's like a pirate. It's like a pirate that made a baby with an angel.
And one of the most important things and interesting things I think about this movie is that everyone gets their time to shine.
Mm-hmm.
Like even bit characters like the Collector. I know I was like cracking up when they had the Collector in like one of the little vaults, and he's like they're like clapping and marvelous,
Yeah.
marvelous. I don't know what he was doing with his hands. I think he was like kind of making those upside down glasses.
And then when he's just kind of waves goodbye as the real reality is shown, he's like, bye. Like I thought that was great.
It was great. Everyone's got their moment. And that must have been so hard to balance from a writing, directing,
yes,
everything perspective.
That they did that so balance between characters. They did so well, and that was like that. Like you said, it's got to be difficult to do. That was one of the biggest things I was afraid of, is that they wouldn't find the right balance, and I thought they hit it perfectly.
Yeah, I just don't know how many. We haven't mentioned this. There was a lot of misdirection going into this movie. I think they said there was like 7 or 8 different scripts written and going around. Most of the actors didn't know the plot. A lot of what you see in the trailers is either not in the movie or it's been heavily edited.
Yep.
There's scenes that show different characters in different places.
I have an article up. Here it is. I have a Polygon article. Polygon said Avengers Infinity War trailer basically rickrolled everyone.
Yeah, and it's super interesting that they managed to write all these scripts and still do things like that, that just balance the whole movie. I kind of feel bad on who had to write all these things that were never going to get made.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't want to be in that writer's room that was just like, all right, Tim, you got script number 3. Only 3 people in the world are ever going to read it. Have fun. Do your best. And it's just like make it believable. That's insane. You got to think about it. There's probably tens of millions of dollars that went into misdirection alone.
Yeah.
Between the trailers and script writing.
But I think it's worked beautifully, because I think for the most part, especially I've been on Twitter a lot. I've been on Facebook a lot. I think for the most part, there's not a lot of spoilers out there. And specifically before the movie released, there were almost no spoilers out there. There was nothing that nothing that I saw leaked anything about what the movie actually was, because I was surprised by every single moment. Not that I really looked for them, not that I really thought that they were going to be there. Whenever I specifically didn't get on social media the day the movie came out, but like I didn't see anything on this at all. I didn't see anything from Reddit, see anything that people were talking about. Like, there were no spoilers out there.
Yeah, like Disney kept it under wraps. Disney knows what they're doing. That as evident by all their box office hits. For better or worse, they run that movie business now, and they're good at what they do. And I'm going to go real back here, like this little trailer that you're showing on the screen right now. These bit characters, everyone played their bit. Peter Parker's friend from Homecoming.
Yes.
His like one line in the movie.
We're all gonna die.
We're all gonna die. Like,
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, they made everyone. I don't know. Everyone did their roles amazingly well, and this isn't some grand work of art. This isn't like a Coppola's greatest movie or a Scorsese flick or anything like that.
And never was, and nobody should have expected it to be.
And I think that's where some of these critics are kind of playing off of, where they're just like, yeah, this is it's a movie, kind of sucks. It doesn't have that depth that insert generic independent film here was. Like, come on, guys. for a summer blockbuster flick, this is probably one of the deepest things that you're going to get. Probably
Right.
the most emotional movies outside of the first summer blockbuster, Jaws.
Yeah. This is the most this is by far the most emotionally jarring Marvel movie you will ever get.
I'd go farther than that. I mean, if you knew what was going on from the comics, you kind of expected the ending of everyone dying and the finger snap.
Right. You
Um,
called that months ago that you thought the movie was going to end with the finger snap.
yeah, I was off by about 10 minutes, and I didn't think about it. You have to have the characters kind of reacting to the
Right.
finger snap.
But
You don't want to leave the
was
audience.
it really 10 minutes? Was it? I think maybe
Maybe
5
less.
minutes.
Maybe less.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted, from a personal standpoint, I kind of wanted snap, cut to black,
That would have been.
and then everyone just goes, "What happened?"
Yeah.
And then like you kind of call back to like I think 3 characters in the movie said that he can end the universe with a snap of his fingers.
You know how epic that would have been. So I think I would have hated it in the moment, but now in retrospect, I would have loved that where he just snaps and then that Avengers Infinity War blown to dust comes across the screen. I would have absolutely loved that because then you can start the next movie with everybody dying.
Yes.
The very beginning of the next movie could have just been Bucky and Peter and Doctor Strange, everybody just fucking dissipating and dying.
That would be a hell of a way to wreck people going into a movie. like, hey,
Yeah.
You're done with the trailers. Here's the trailers for the next Star Wars movie. Here's a summer comedy flick. Ha ha ha. All right, welcome to Avengers Infinity War 2. Everyone's dead.
Yeah, the first
Before your eyes.
The first teaser trailer is just Peter Parker fading away in Iron Man's arms. Like it's just 20 seconds. It's not even the words that he's saying. It's just 20 seconds, like 10 seconds of him fading away, and then 10 seconds of Infinity War 2, like or whatever the name of it's gonna be. Do we even know what the name of the sequel is gonna be? Do they have a name yet?
We have no clue what it's gonna be. They might play off of one of the Infinity timelines, like call it Infinity Crisis.
Oh yeah.
Which I could definitely see something like that because it's no longer a war.
Right.
The war's over. Thanos won. Now it's just dealing with the fallout of just half the universe dying.
Just half the universe. Okay, so let's get into box office stuff. I pulled up an article from 10:30 this morning, which obviously the numbers have probably changed since then. Oh God, we're dying. We're both dying. I don't know what just happened to me. I couldn't breathe for a second. Anyway, okay. So at 10:33 this morning, Infinity War had hit $641 million an opening weekend. Globally. Yes, globally. An opening weekend. Overseas open was 383 million. So 641 million total on opening weekend. I don't think we've gotten the full official numbers yet. We'll get those in like a day or two, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking at the numbers here on Box Office Mojo, and they're pretty precise. So I don't know where they get their numbers from, but man, this is like a force to be reckoned with. This thing's gonna be putting up, shattering all sorts of records, and it kind of begs, can Disney do this again with Infinity War 2? Do you think?
I absolutely think they can, and then they're gonna have the number 1 and the number 2 box office juggernauts that are gonna be. Could they ever be beaten?
I don't know, and it makes me wonder, like, if this is, Marvel's going to go on and do more movies, and this is going to start the new phase or whatever. Is this like the high point? Like, can they really go any higher? Because I can definitely see, people talk about fatigue. I don't think this movie has really any fatigue. It's kind of refreshing in how different it is. But once we wrap up the Infinity War timeline, shift around heroes, things like that, are people going to keep coming back? Do they want to deal with new heroes? Do they want to see a new 10-year culmination?
Right. I don't think so. I think that's the fatigue will set in there in phase 3. That's phase 3, right? Or is that phase 4?
Phase 17, 22, somewhere around there. I don't know.
That's where the fatigue is going to set in the next phase. I think for the general public, I'm still going to be super into it. I know, like, people that we know will still be super into it, but I think that's when the fatigue will set in. Hold on, real fast, some Facebook comments. We got a couple people that are coming up with great Infinity War 2 names. Andy said Infinity War 2, The Second Coming. Infinity War 2, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Randy says Infinity Affinity. And then Andy again says Infinity War 2, Rescuers Down Under. Like, he's just taking... Wait... Yours. I just saw the one that you put on there. Infinity War 2, The Last Thanos. Infinity War 2, The Last Avengers for Andy. I think my favorite is Infinity War 2, The Gauntlet Awakens.
That's a pretty good one.
That's what we should do before they announce it, is just to have one episode where we just come up with like titles for the next Infinity War movie. But yeah, so yeah, I don't think, even if they do another 10 years of culmination in this next phase, in these next few phases, and then they come out again, I don't think these two can be beaten. I think these are going to be the biggest Marvel movies that they ever have. They're not just Marvel movies. They're going to be the biggest movies, biggest box office movies ever. Like, they're setting the bar super high. And the only entity like entity that I could think of that would have been able to beat it is if Star Wars wouldn't have fucked up. If Star Wars hadn't have been bad. That's the only thing that I could think of that could beat these Marvel movies. What other universe can be brought about that has DC's been ruined, Star Wars has been ruined? What other universe that already has a following and a general public can be brought in that could beat this? I don't think there's anything. I think one
of the most interesting things about Infinity War is that they just beat DC at their own game. This is a dark and gritty film.
Yeah.
And this, like, it's an emotional movie, which is what DC's been trying to do. And Marvel just says, like, hold my beer. Like,
we'll show you how to do deep and dark.
Yeah, they raise the stakes. I just, I've been saying this for a while. I don't know how DC comes back from this. It, like, DC with the Justice League movie introduced their big bad purple guy, Steppenwolf, and he was just like, "I'm Steppenwolf, I'm bad." I still
haven't seen Justice League, by the way.
Oh, it's awful.
Like, that's how little I care about the DC universe. We do a nerd show, and I haven't seen Justice League.
Justice League has its own purple scrotum face man named Steppenwolf, and his driving factor is, "I'm bad, destroy world," and you're just like, okay. You get Thanos here, and he's one of the most well-crafted villains in a while.
That's what I wanted to get into that to end the show. So we'll we could literally go another hour just talk about Thanos. So go ahead. Let's go ahead and get into that.
The thing about him is you got to realize he doesn't think what he's doing is wrong. He's one of those villains that his driving force is this, like, malformed sense of justice and, like, world saving
morality.
Yeah, he feels like he's the universe's like version of Jesus, and he's gonna fix everything by just killing half of everything, and he's got a point. We see a callback to his home planet, not a planet, home moon
Titan,
of Titan.
Yeah.
And he was right, but part of it is that his whole driving force kind of falls apart if you overanalyze the movie a little bit. It's like, oh, he's got the Infinity Gauntlet. He could just kill half of everyone and get his wish. But he could also sort of just, like, make infinite resources.
Yeah.
And sort of, like,
but
fix
he doesn't
all
think about that because he's so mission oriented. Like, he's so focused on his mission. That's all that matters. And, like, so I tried to tell the wife. She said Thanos just looks like a big mean bad guy. Hold on, I have to address this real fast. Our friend Jordan, or Cal, is commenting right now, and he said Justice League wasn't terrible, it just wasn't phenomenal. I'm saying phenomenal. I'm not saying you're a correction to phenomenal because you screwed up. That sucks. Phenomenal. Cal, Justice League is terrible, and I haven't even seen it. And you can't convince me otherwise. I haven't even sat down to watch it. It just looks terrible. I just see the videos of Superman's stupid lip and Cyborg, and I just don't want to watch it. Like, I would rather wait and watch Ready Player One every single day for the rest of my life than see Justice League one time. Because Ready Player One, although there are some problems with it, is still a much better movie than that crappy drivel that DC put out.
But going back to
back
Thanos,
to Thanos.
from
Back
that
to Thanos. Yeah.
tangent.
Sorry. I tried to explain to Kara, like she said, there can't be any villain in Marvel that was as likable and relatable as Killmonger. Like, she loved Killmonger from Black Panther because she could feel, like, she could see, like, all right, he made me feel it. But until she saw Thanos. And because Thanos, there are times where you sit back and you're like, I mean, I kind of get where he's coming from. I might be like that too if everything was taken from me.
Yeah, like he's you know, it's a different factor from the comic books where he's just in love with death and he wants to impress the personification of death. It's still a great driving factor. As I said, it just doesn't hold up to much scrutiny. But the scenes that we get with Thanos, you know, we see this kind of like almost loving fatherly side with Gamora. We see him being respectful of his enemies.
Yeah.
You know, like when he meets people, he's like, "Oh, Tony Stark, you know, I am also burdened with knowledge." You know, he knows these characters and he's just like for example, Star-Lord has a scene where he has to almost try to kill Gamora and Thanos stops him and he's just like, "I like you." And just leaves.
Yeah, and just heads out.
And it's one of the things, like, that's a great villain when you just don't know what he's gonna do.
Right.
You know, it's like, yeah, sure, he might spare you, or he might take your hands and be like, well, you're gonna live your life without your hands. Or you're like, you impressed him, and he said he was gonna let you live, but he changed his mind. He's gonna kill you now. And that's, you know, I call back one of my favorite movies of the 70s, 60s, 80s, 90s today. I don't remember. The Warriors. The Warriors.
I think that's late 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. The Warriors villain, I forget his name, but literal just sociopath. Just quite literally, you know, why'd you kill this guy and start a gang war? Well, because I like doing things like that. And those are terrifying villains.
Yeah.
And Michael Romano on Facebook says, you know, he seems way meaner in the comics. He is. He's much more brutal in the comics. We just got to remember this is a PG-13 movie.
Right. And
we can't have, you know, Tony Stark being decapitated, you know, Spider-Man being crushed in the palm of his hand. I think they even went pretty far to show, like, Loki's neck being snapped.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. But Thanos is way more brutal in the comics, and unfortunately we're not going to get that. And that's probably my biggest complaint about the movie is that the only two real deaths at the hand of Thanos were Gamora and Loki.
Yeah.
And then everything else was the gauntlet snap.
Yeah.
I wanted more Thanos being just straight up cruel.
Right.
But if they showed that, I think it draws away from his character of what people know.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you're not familiar with the comics, you just be like, oh, this guy's just an asshole. They kind of want you to identify and be like, I get it. I get why he's doing what he does.
Right.
And I think, you know, it's always been a big complaint that Marvel's had weak villains. Between this and
Not
Ego
anymore.
from Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yep.
and I still say Baron Zemo,
I say Killmonger too. I'll add Killmonger in there.
I forgot about Killmonger. Killmonger was great. I think that's what we're getting now. They identified their weak spot, and they're like, all right, let's up our villain game, and that's great.
By the way, I just want to say, Cal, he responded. I was just trolling you, man. I specifically said that because I haven't seen the movie. I'll watch it at some point, and I think Stefen, you said that it was okay. Like, it was just okay. Like, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't really hot garbage. Most people it was like, it was all right. It wasn't as bad as Batman versus Superman, is what I've heard. That was hot garbage.
That was all over the place and tonally just screwed up.
But Thanos, so like the moments, I can't choose. So you have to choose your favorite Thanos moment. And I'm having a tough time choosing between when he has to kill Gamora to get the Soul Stone, And he turns around and she's like, tears, really? And Red Skull's just like, they're not for him. And he's like crying because he's like, I gave up my mission once before and I can't do it. I can't do it. Not even for you. And then just tosses her off the cliff. I can't decide between that and the moment he snaps his fingers and he goes into his own head. And it's just like little girl Gamora sitting there. And she's like, did you do it? And he said, yeah. And she says, what does it cost? And he's like, everything. And it's like, I think I have to choose that moment. Reliving it in my head and talking it out just helped me. I'm choosing that moment. That was hands down the best Thanos moment because that's his characterization in a nutshell. That's like, I accomplished my mission. I did it. And it cost me everything in the end, but I wouldn't do it any other way. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it exactly the same way. And that's that scene right there. It's so emotional, and he's so like, you can see that he's actually like torn apart by it, but then he's okay with it because he still in his mind knows he was doing what was right, and that's why he sits down, watches the sunset, and smiles.
Yeah, and that was hell of an acting job by Josh Brolin.
Mm-hmm.
It's simultaneously coming across as this massive asshole, villain, but like still bringing the heart to this character.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that scene like when it was being filmed because they do everything in the mocap suits.
Right.
Like how you could take Josh Brolin seriously in a green leotard.
Yeah.
With like little ping pong balls all taped all over him. But I feel like even some of the people like he's in a mocap suit. He looks like terrible, but the people in the crew probably still felt that performance.
Yeah.
Like everything he did was just really good. I'd put that up there as probably my favorite Thanos moment.
Yeah.
Maybe the point in time when he stabs Tony Stark. I remember the whole audience took like a collective like intake of air, like that sudden gasp where everyone's like, oh yeah, is this the
moment so Iron Man is my wife's favorite, hands down. She likes Thor. She likes the pretty men. I look nothing like Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Hemsworth, so I should probably be worried. But Iron Man is her favorite, and she's like, I'm going to lose it if Iron Man dies. And so I was waiting for that moment. I looked over at her specifically at that moment when we went to go see it. And when he stabs, she's like watching it. And when he grabs Tony Stark, she's like, I see her over there going, no. And then when he stabbed Tony Stark, she goes, like she literally like gasped, hand over her face. Like I thought she was about to lose it. Like I thought she was about to break down. And because that moment, like that's how everybody else was. At least the first time I saw it in the theater, the first time I've ever gone and seen a movie by myself and had to sit right in between two complete strangers. But on either side of me, they did the exact same thing I did in that moment, and we were all like, oh no. And then obviously he doesn't die, but it's like, it's tense. The whole thing is tense. Every scene with Thanos is tense because, like you said earlier, you don't know what he's gonna do. And then he's like, whatever, Tony. I don't need to kill you. I actually kind of respect you. And he just pieces out. Well, before Star-Lord like tries to like dive into him. Cal says, is your interpretation of the last scene with little Gamora that went on in his head? Yeah, that's my interpretation. Oh, you think it's the Soul Stone, Stefen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like when they unleash the Soul Stone, he has to pay a soul for the Soul Stone.
Oh,
Gamora's soul. One
It's
of the
in
notable
Soul
things.
Stone.
Yeah, one of the notable things about the Soul Stone is that it absorbs souls, and it has its whole like Soul Stone world in it, where Adam Warlock actually lives for quite a while. And that's one of my expectations is that Gamora is in the Soul Stone, and she meets the soul of Adam Warlock. And I keep saying Adam Warlock. I hope he's in the next movie.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I don't think they would tease the character in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and then not bring him in for this.
Right.
He's too important in the Infinity series.
And I think that's what we're getting is that it's the Soul Stone showing him like the cost of what he's done.
Right.
These stones, they're kind of sentient. And they take a toll on the user, and that's part of the cost is that the Soul Stone is gonna mess with you.
So a lot of people I've seen a lot of people complain about there wasn't enough of certain characters. I think when people complain about this movie, a lot of what I've seen is they complain there wasn't enough Spider-Man, there wasn't enough. I've seen a lot of there wasn't enough Black Panther. For me, I would have liked to see a little bit more Bucky. People complaining that the Hulk wasn't there. And one thing I've tried to tell everybody, and this is kind of the last thing I want to say, is one thing that they did a great job of is balancing. But don't be mistaken, this was Thanos' movie. This was nobody else's movie. This wasn't Captain's. This wasn't Iron Man's. It wasn't Thor's. It wasn't Star-Lord's. It wasn't anybody. It wasn't Scarlet Witch and Vision's. This was Thanos' movie. He was the main character. Even though he's the villain, this was all about him and his quest and his mission. And everybody else was a supporting character. Everybody else was a supporting actor in this. Josh Brolin should win a damn Oscar for this. Honestly, I think his performance was that good, and he should win a best actor Oscar for this. Not best supporting actor. He should win best actor.
And I gotta say, you know, I think I touched on this like 10 episodes ago. That's what I was saying this movie's got to be about.
Yeah.
Is, you know, it's Thanos's rise to power. It's, you know, getting to know the character, and we're kind of seeing everything going on in the background to thwart him. But he really is the main character. And that's important. You know, we got to see this character, you know, not necessarily grow but we had to have some character development. Right. That's what makes a important plot. Everyone else is developed. You know, we've had 10 years to develop this.
Exactly.
If you want to see more Black Panther, go watch Black Panther. It's still in the movies. Right. I mean, in the theaters. This is, you know, Thanos' moment. And the next movie, we're going to get Thanos, you know, resting on his laurels, and we're going to get more team up and build up. Yep. You know, we're not even going to get much of Captain Marvel's building up because she gets her own movie.
Right. But a month before. It'll probably be really similar to Black Panther, where she'll be there and she'll be an integral part of it, but she's not going to get as many lines and as much screen time because her movie's literally a month before. Right.
You know, and the next movie is going to be the one where the heroes really shine.
Yes.
Because this is, you know, their victory. This is their moment.
It's the redemption story.
This movie is Thanos' movie.
Yep. One thing, I don't want to say Jordan. It's so weird saying Jordan. Cal, our friend Cal on Facebook, said he thought Thor really shined. He got a lot of time and was the badass. I absolutely agree with that. I thought if you go to all of the heroes, the one that I thought that was the most compelling was Chris Hemsworth with Thor, because you see. Before, he's all like, oh, I can kill anyone. And then Thor Ragnarok, it's like, oh, this one's more funny. But then in this one, you see a Thor that's just kind of beaten down. And he's emotionally wrecked. He had to watch everybody that he loved that was around him is dead now. He had to watch his brother, his brother finally did something right and it got him killed. And he had to sit there and watch him die. He had to watch Heimdall die. Which that's another death. Heimdall is another death that that was outside of the finger snap. But Heimdall, I love Heimdall, but he's not an important character for me. But he's gone through so much, and especially like with Thor Ragnarok and moving into this, and then to see what I loved is to see the continuation of him being as much of a badass as he was at the end of Ragnarok. Going into this movie, when he gets what was the name of the axe? Stormbreaker, isn't it? Stormbreaker, something like that.
Yeah, Stormbreaker.
When he gets
it's a little much.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite lines of the movie when Rocket's just like, that's a little much. And then what's the other line when he's like, what do I have? Thor's like, what do I have left to lose? And Rocket's like, I mean, I got a lot to lose. Personally, I got a lot to lose. Rocket was great in this, but so when he gets Stormbreaker and he enters the battlefield and just lays waste to everything around him with that axe. It was incredible. And then he just throws it, pierces Thanos. I thought out of the heroes, he was by far my favorite to watch in this movie in some of his scenes. I thought he kind of lived almost up to Josh Brolin's job doing Thanos.
Yeah. He was a real highlight of the movie. I'm really excited to see, like, you know, Chris Hemsworth seemed a little tired with the first two Thor movies, but since Ragnarok and this, I hope he sticks around, man.
I do too.
I think he's really kind of fallen in love with the character now, and it shows.
Yeah,
it really does show.
I think Ragnarok reinvigorated him because Taika Waititi completely reinvented the character. And what I love seeing was that the Russo brothers had they took I didn't see that Taika Waititi was an executive producer in this, but I did see that James Gunn and Jon Favreau were executive producers on this, and I'm assuming they used Taika Waititi in some kind of consultation role. But that's what we talked about months ago when we talked about Infinity War. It was after Thor Ragnarok. We talked about how I really hope that the Russo brothers use these guys to build these worlds, and you could feel it every time they switch to a character. The most palpable switch where you could really feel the universe of those characters, it was whenever they first switched over to the Guardians, and it just says space, and they're listening to like some 70s song and just flying around, and they're all singing to it. You could tell that James Gunn had his fingers in that scene specifically, and in a lot of scenes with the Guardians of the Galaxy, but there was a little bit of Taika Waititi whenever Thor was on camera. Some of the interactions he had with Chris Pratt, I thought that you could feel a little bit of Taika Waititi, and I think Chris Hemsworth is reinvigorated with that character because of the personality switch, the personality change that Waititi gave Thor through Thor Ragnarok. He's not just the God of Thunder. He's like from the very beginning. At the very beginning, the first 2 minutes of the movie, Thanos is on this huge monologue, and you could hear Thor laying on the ground after getting his ass beat. It's just like, you talk too much. Like that's a very Taika Waititi type of thing to do, and so it was great to see that continuation.
Yeah, I'm really glad. I guarantee you there was collaboration between all the directors, probably helping write the screenplay and whatnot. Yep. And you need to, because people fell in love with the way that people made these. These directors have made these characters, and you need to preserve that. When you see the Guardians, you expect the Guardians. You don't expect the Guardians written by, I don't know. Someone.
You don't want to fit them into somebody else's universe. You don't expect Guardians via Iron Man or
Winter Soldier or something like that.
Right, exactly. Or you don't want the Guardians to be like square pegged into the round hole of a Captain America flick. You want them to have their feel that you've learned to love through those movies, especially with those movies, because they're some of those popular Marvel movies. I think most people would agree the Guardians movies are up there with some of their favorites. Our friend Cal says the interaction with Star-Lord and Thor was awesome. Yeah, I think it was one of the funniest scenes in the entire movie. It's like, well, I mean, everybody has their stuff. I, too, had a father who tried to kill me, and I had to kill him, which would arguably be worse than killing your sister.
And I still have both my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. I don't know how much more I have to say about it. Is there anything that we missed? Anything else that we want to talk about?
I'm sure there's things that we missed, but then we run the chance of running as long as the actual movie did.
Yeah.
So
one last thing, Jordan says Doctor Strange was another character that really blew him away. I haven't liked much from him prior to this. I really love the Doctor Strange movie, and I've watched it many times because it's Emery's favorite Marvel movie. But I think Benedict Cumberbatch is phenomenal as Doctor Strange.
I think Doctor Strange is a movie that really benefits from repeat viewings. Yes. The more you watch it, it's on Netflix. I recommend if you've only seen it once or twice, try watching it a couple more times. I really enjoyed it out of the box. The visuals are stunning, but Benedict Cumberbatch's performance is really good.
Yes.
And as long as you take it for what it is, it's another origin story, but he really plays the character well. And it's great to see Tony Stark and Doctor Strange meet because we have the meeting of the two MCU assholes.
Yeah.
The jerks.
The sarcastic jerks. Yeah, and that was they both played their parts so beautifully. Like every interaction between them was awesome. Like whenever the Maw was like, "Why would you save him?" It's like, he's not really my friend. I'm really doing this as a professional courtesy.
Yeah, they're both these snarky, smart guys that to have their downfalls, and it was great to see them interact. And now we have a arguably full-powered Doctor Strange, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
we have that scene where he goes all handsy and we get tons of Doctor Strange. That was a really like blow away moment. Like just out of nowhere, we have, the first movie we have him struggling to form weapons.
Right.
And this movie he's like, yeah, what? It's been 2 months. I'm the now master of everything in the known universe of magic. You're dealing with the fucking Sorcerer Supreme, motherfucker.
Yeah, have fun dealing with 60 of me.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I'm really excited for another Doctor Strange movie because we're going to have, full powered Doctor Strange. And, by the way, speaking of supporting characters earlier on, how about the cape?
Yes,
just like even
absolutely.
the little bits of the cape.
The cape brought up in every scene was awesome, especially with Drax. And what did he call it? Like he's like you evil magical blanket or something like that. Like that's the cape was way to take something that obviously in Doctor Strange played a big part, but still didn't have much of a characterization to it. And find another way to balance it into this movie with all these other heroes and characters. One more support before we end in a minute. T'Challa's sister, Black Panther's sister. I thought
sure.
One of the scenes, the scene where she's like, why didn't you just centralize all of it? And she's looking at Bruce Banner, one of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe. I thought they did a great job of showcasing how incredibly intelligent she is, because she is supposed to be the smartest person in the Marvel Universe. And they did a great job of showcasing, it's like, why didn't you just do this? And Bruce Banner's like, because me and Tony Stark, the two other smartest people in the MCU, didn't think of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool.
Oh yeah, no, it was great. They did. Everyone had their time to shine,
Yeah.
and it was just fantastic.
Anyway, all right. So we've gone for like 45 hours. We've gone for almost an hour and a half. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this. That is our Avengers: Infinity War spoileriest review. The movie was phenomenal. I loved it. I cannot wait. I want to go see it again, and I can't wait till it comes out on Blu-ray. This is going to be a movie. Not only will I watch this multiple times when I get it on Blu-ray, I'm going to watch it with the commentary multiple times, because I just want to hear. I want to hear everything about like the filming of it, how they decided to do things, like why they went different routes. I'm very excited about the Blu-ray for this film. This is my favorite Marvel movie, hands down. There are a few that come close, but this one's my favorite. I thought it was the best. Your final thoughts on the movie?
Speaking of the commentary track, I really hope we get a commentary track with all the directors on it.
Yes.
If we could get like Gunn and Waititi and the brothers, just everyone on the commentary track, that would be like an astounding thing to hear them all play off of each other. But yeah, this is up there. I don't know if it's my number one, but top 3, maybe top 2. This is just a fantastic movie.
What would you put number 1 if you like one of the Guardians movies?
Gun to my head, I'd probably say Winter Soldier.
Okay, that one's actually pretty incredible. I haven't seen it in a while. I think this is my favorite. If I had to choose one, the one I'd put above it, it's gonna be surprising, but it's just straight up because of the director, Thor Ragnarok. I think I would put above.
I don't think it's that surprising.
Yeah, I love that movie so much. But anyway, thank you so much for watching us on Facebook and YouTube. We're broadcasting on Phantom, Facebook's only live sports network. As per the usual, I am Josh Beard at Josh Beard Radio on Twitter. He is Stefen. I never tweet. I don't know why Josh keeps giving out my Twitter handle. Mazone at Mazons on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook.com/NerdedUpPod. You can find us on Twitter at NerdedUpPod. You can listen to us on Podbean, or you could just watch us again, listen to us on YouTube. Whichever way you want to do it, man. We're all over the place. Thank you so much for watching us. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you next week.